Oh my goodness, Bjorn, it's such a pleasure to have you on my show. I
Well, likewise to be. Well, you were on my show,
yeah,
my channel. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I appreciate you having reached out to me, and you're from Norway, which I checked on my 23andMe to confirm some of the things I said, and my great grandfather was 100% Icelandic, and some of my family comes from Norway. So
Wonderful.
yeah, isn't that cool? I've always felt like a Viking at heart, and you don't, I don't know how many videos that you've ever seen of mine, but I used to have long hair, and I even had a beard. Everybody thought I looked like Jesus, which was ironic. um, anyway, hey everybody, my name's Timmy Gibson. I'm a former fundamental evangelical, Bible-thumping, tongue-talking, Holy-Ghost-Rollin pastor. Spent 30 years as a evangelical pastor, 48 years in the evangelical church. And today I have the honor of having Bjorn on my channel, and I'll tag all of his. He's got like 4 channels. Bjorn Talks. I think you have one on lifting, and just he's an interesting man. And I'm so excited to talk to him today. And so make sure to like and subscribe all his channels, and show the love and support as he's doing a lot of great stuff out there. So Bjorn, give us a little bit of your bio. You know, the funny thing is when you and I talked, I hadn't I just in all honesty, I didn't really look into any of your stuff. After we did the interview, I did, because I thought, wow, I should go check him out. You are very interesting.
Oh,
Uh,
thank you.
yeah, no, you're a very interesting person. Yeah, I watched a
That's
bunch of
very
your
kind of you to
videos.
say.
Yeah, and you're very kind. You have such a kind spirit. You remind me of my a really dear friend of mine. His name's Scott. He's been my friend. We went to Bible college together. So we've been friends for 30 years or so. And you remind me of him. He's got long hair and a beard, and he's just very kind spirited. He's got a very kind spirit, which is you, and to me anyway, at least what interactions I've had with you, you just seem like a very kind kind of person.
Why? I try.
Yeah. So yeah, tell us about just you. What like all like what
Yeah,
you do,
well,
how you got started on your channels.
yeah, it's a funny story. I'm not really a YouTuber. I'm a novelist, so I've written 20 something novels. And that is my big frustration in life, that they are, as per now, not yet available in English. That might change in the future, hopefully.
I hope so, because I was gonna get one to read it, and I was like, oh, I
Mm.
can't.
They're available in Spanish, German, Danish, Swedish, Polish, Dutch, and so on, and Russian even, so on and so on. Not yet English, but yeah. So that's what I've been doing my entire adult life. So I've never had a proper job.
That's great.
But I started on YouTube because I started as a blogger, and more than 10 years ago. And what happened was that every time I wrote a blog post that kind of took off, it just died because people would steal it and put it on bigger websites. So I thought they can't steal videos so easily, which is still true. But of course now they have AI and all of that, so they do steal. But yeah, so that's how I started making videos 10 years ago. Or actually, my lifting channel, which is not really it's not really a big, it's just a little thing there. That started way before that, but that was just communication with my coach. So properly going into YouTube, that I started doing that 10 years ago, and now I have 3 active channels, and yeah.
So your
that's
main channel is what?
that's my name there. That's it's called
That's
just
your
my
main
name.
channel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
And what's your primary focus? Because I did a little bit of it. Like I went and watched a bunch of your videos, like the one on you're an anarchist, except anarchism won't work, or what. Like it was just so fascinating. It was just you're walking through the woods, at least on this one. And you have a certain, like, you look like a Viking. You look like you live in the woods. I saw one video you were making spears, and what's kind of the thing, I saw the intro video,
Yeah.
but for the listeners, what is that channel about
I don't
overall?
know. I've given up. They say you should niche down, and I really tried to do that into the Viking age content thing, and then AI came in from the sideline there and just killed the history niche on YouTube, at least for me. And so now I decided I'll just make videos about whatever, but there will always be quite a lot of, on the main channel, quite a lot of Viking related topics there, both making some stuff. I'm not really a good craftsman, I would say. I can make longbows, but mostly me talking about the Viking age. But now I'll just talk, basically just sit by the campfire when I can have a campfire. We're getting to that time of the year again when I can have a campfire.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I do. Also on Björn Talks, that's my rant channel where I'm irritated and I just vent, as they say. And I have Björn Outdoors, which is me going camping. So if you want to see a middle-aged Norwegian man sleeping in a tent, that's Björn Outdoors for you. Yeah.
Yeah. And how young a man are you? How
Sorry.
young of a man are you?
I'm still 53.
53. Okay. All right. So you said middle age. I was like, oh, middle age. I wonder. Yeah, because I'm 57 and I feel like I'm coming up to middle age.
Well, actually, I think we are being too kind to ourselves because middle age is in your late 30s.
Oh, really? Isn't that
Well,
wild?
if you die,
Yeah. I mean,
when
that
do
makes
people
sense.
die? At 80? I don't know.
Yeah. 80 to, yeah, my grandfather died. He was almost 90. My wife's grandparents just passed. One was 96. The other one was 95. So even then, you're still looking at middle age as 45.
Yeah.
So, you and I are well past that.
Yeah.
But, I'm shooting for as long as possible, I mean, aren't we all? Obviously, I want to be healthy, though, in the journey,
Yeah, health is very, very important. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, your story and fascination with your, Christianity, and of course our Christian president, Trump, clearly.
Is he?
No, I mean,
he's not a good Christian.
No, and most Christians wouldn't think that he is a good Christian for sure.
He's a
In
dirty
fact,
old man.
Yeah, goodness gracious. Yeah, talk about old. Jeez. We've had a bunch of old folks up
Can
in
you
the
next
presidency.
time try to get the president who is under 60 or something?
Wouldn't that be nice? I seriously have thought that too. Like, to me, I don't always think that old means wisdom, because they could be, believing the wrong things and stupid as they've gotten older. So yeah, I'm with you. I think the presidency should be maybe 37 would be the cutoff on the bottom, and then maybe 59 to 65 would be like a good range where you have enough life, but enough energy and health, and I don't know.
Well, you have some people, Bernie Sanders, not saying, I don't know enough about Bernie Sanders.
Sure.
And I'm sure maybe he's quite leftist. Honestly, I don't really know, but I'm just using him as an example of someone who is old, but he still seems to have that energy, right?
Yeah, he definitely does. So you're fascinated with uh, America, just I guess in the same way that those of us in America, at least myself, I'm super fascinated with other countries, other lifestyles, other beliefs. You know,
Mm,
I think it's been part of my journey away from Christianity and religiosity in general, even spirituality per se. Depends on how you identify, you know, what spirituality
yeah.
means to you. I still believe in
Mm,
meditation, you know, deep breathing. I believe in connecting with nature, but there doesn't need to be a God for that for me. But your fascination with us is so interesting because I went back and saw some of your videos, and one of the reasons you wanted to talk to me was just because like what's going on with this whole Christian
what's
thing.
going on?
Yeah. And so for me, I'm curious about you. Like, were you raised in a Christian home? And at what
Mm.
point did you go, this ain't true?
No, I was raised in a secular home, but the school was Christian. All schools in the 70s when I started school were Christian. Not, I mean, not like we were praying and so on, but we were taught that, you know, Jesus was, this was not just stories, this was true, and all of that. Not not like in the extreme way that, oh, Noah really built an ark and all of that, but you know, it was a separate. We would have like 2 or 3 hours each week with we were taught about Christianity, not as a religion, but as your faith. That was kind of uh, nobody could question that back then, but you know, so yeah, that was just how it was. So, but apart from that, I don't. Christianity was not a part of my life at all. I thought I was Christian when I was like 8 years old because we were told that we were Christians
Right.
in school. So, but then I remember very early on, I asked someone on the street, like I think they were there with some pamphlets and stuff, like Christian pamphlets. When I go to heaven, and I was quite little then, you know, will my dogs be there? Will they also go to heaven? And they said no, because they're just animals and they don't have a soul. And then I thought, okay, I'm not a Christian then. So that was easy.
So that was quick.
I disagreed with that sentiment. I still disagree with that. I think we are all animals, you know, but well, we are.
As I say, we are, yeah.
I mean, what else could we be? And I just mentioned my fascination with the USA is you know, it's such a unique country, uh, and what many, well, I guess many Americans do know actually that lots of Norwegians went to America or the USA, 1800s, beginning of 1900s, because they really couldn't see a future here in Norway. And I've read somewhere that there are more descendants of Norwegians in the USA than there are Norwegians in Norway today, actually.
Interesting.
You'll have to fact check me on that, but I've read that somewhere.
Yeah.
And my uncle, not direct uncle, but you know, several back in my ancestral lineage,
Yeah.
you will find a guy called Ole Bull. He was a very famous, world famous violinist, a womanizer, and yeah, I'm just being truthful here,
Yeah.
and a bit of a megalomaniac. So he went to America not just to travel there, but to establish his own little country,
Oh.
actually. And he called it, um, he was not a humble man, so he called it Oleana, after his own first name. It I think he went bankrupt and then went back to Norway. So yeah, so that's a bit of a
That is wild.
history
Yeah,
there.
my great, so obviously through my paternal and maternal, the mother, the paternal is the father, I believe. Anyway, you go back. 23andMe can take me back on my mother's side 160,000 years to a
Mm,
person, um, and my through my father's side, through the male, it goes back 275,000, and I'm 2% Neanderthal,
mm,
and most Europe is where I come from apparently, but my dad's dad came over from Stockholm, Sweden.
mm.
So it's fairly recent. I mean, we just came over in the late 1800s, early 1900s is when. So it's and I have pictures of these people, which is so
Mm.
cool,
Yeah.
to check out your heritage and that kind of stuff. Alexander Hamilton is in my family. Marie Antoinette, whatever's in my family. So yeah, a lot of neat things when you dig back and follow and trace your lineage back. It's such
Yeah,
a
it's very
fascinating.
fascinating. Yeah.
We're lucky to be here. When you really think about it, we're
Yeah.
lucky to be here.
Yeah. 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 I've been speaking of lucky. I have we have a person in the extended family, very extended family, that have done quite extensive research on the ancestry and traced it back hundreds of years, back to the Viking Age and before that, actually,
Wow.
which you can do if you have some famous people, um, members of the clergy, priests, is that
Yep.
what you say? Yeah. Because if you were just a common peasant, they wouldn't bother with, so
Yep.
then that trace is often lost. But because of Ole Bull, who I mentioned, she was able to trace it back and to kings and criminals and all sorts of funny people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny
So
you
that,
say that.
yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, that is fascinating. 'Cause my father, my biological father, who passed away at a young age of 37, actually. Um, his brother um, is still alive. His name's Dennis, lives in
Mm,
Alaska, and he is Mormon. He's actually in poor health, but he's Mormon. Anyway, I say that to say what you just said, that the Mormons apparently are very good at record keeping and really
mm,
good with that genealogy. So he's the one, outside of 23andMe, he's the one that has sent me all the pictures and the names and
mm.
all the things that I have physically to look at, to learn about at least 3 or 4 generations back, which is so fascinating. And my birth name is different. You'll actually probably appreciate my birth name because it actually sounds like a name that would come from your area. So my birth name is Hawkinson, H
Håkonsen. Oh, mm,
Hakanson, Hawkinson.
Håkonsen.
Uh-huh.
That's very Scandinavian.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Mm.
and then on my mother's side, I have a lot of Native American. Chief White Cloud is like six uh, 6 generations away from me.
Mm.
Chief White
How
Cloud.
cool is that to have,
Yeah,
I mean, Native American ancestry? I wish I
yeah.
had that.
I'm actually a card carrying. I get a lot of free healthcare, like dental work is free, like certain things. I just go
Really?
to the Indian clinic. Yeah, here in Kansas, and it's free. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I'm a
Mm.
card carrying Native American. Like I have a card that says, I'm a part of my initial. So here's what's weird. It's an Iowa Sac and Fox tribe, the Sac and Fox
Mhm.
tribe, but they blended, and now my card says the Kansas Nebraska Indian tribe. So
Okay.
I guess they blended and merged. I don't know how that works, but yeah. Anyway, So yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's a
Mm.
neat heritage. I used to go to family reunions with my grandpa on my mom's side. So my mom was 15 when she was pregnant with me. She had me at 16, so clearly she lived at home. Her parents, my grandparents, my grandpa looked 100% Native American, and we used to go to family reunions, and we would all dance around the tents and wear headdresses and all that when I was a little kid.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So pretty legit. Anyway,
How
so
did
okay,
that go along with the Christianity? I
you know, it was
mean,
just a separate. It was like this was our heritage, and yet,
mm,
yeah, they were super Christian.
yeah.
So no peace pipes for me.
Mm, yeah. I want to say that, I know we're going to talk about this, and one thing I would want to mention is that why did I start talking about Christianity on YouTube?
Yeah,
And the reason is very simple. It's because if you talk about history, European history, you will encounter the effects of Christianity, obviously. And if you have an objective view on history, you will see that Christianity was very brutal. Conversion by the sword, as we say here,
yeah,
that was how they did it, you know. And then, lots of people, they don't like that. They don't like to hear that. And they say that no, people they just thought it was a better idea, better than the fake gods that they had and all of that. So, which is kind of ridiculous.
absolutely.
And so when you sit there with the historical knowledge and you like me, I'm not a university educated historian, but I've studied the Viking Age as a novelist for decades. And so then I started responding to that, making some videos about that, and they always cost me subscribers. You know,
Yeah, I can.
I have one. It's bleeding my channel. It's several years old. It's constantly bleeding my channel of subscribers.
Oh, well, that's why when I messaged you and said, "Hey, I'm commenting on our video that we did, just so you know,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I'm a nice guy, but when people are assholes, I'll go after them and say, I just do, because it's just ridiculous." Um, yeah. Anyway, that's funny, and yeah, I was laughing at some of the comments.
yeah. But they are very, they're going to. It's you can tell before you post the video what the comments, some of the comments will say. There will be no surprises there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Mm.
interesting because I didn't know. So I'm a 4 year. I went to 4 years of Bible college. I went to two different Bible colleges and then graduated at the second Bible college I went. Both of them were just 2 years, but the second one was a 2 year program. And so, you know, I often say I went to 4 years of Bible college, which is true. But I only graduated from one school that was a 2 year program. And I remember even then when they talked about history, you'll laugh at this. As a true person that studies history, which I love history. I don't study it as much as I should or whatever, but I love it. I'm fascinated by it.
Mm.
Anyway, so the history. So in my Bible school, the history class, it only went back to the history of the Pentecostal movement, like
Oh,
like
okay.
literally back into like the uh, revivals of the early 1900s. I mean, it's like, stuff that I was like around the time I was born. I mean, like not too far from my birth time. That's the history class. And I remember I was interested in history, and so anytime I would do just a little bit of a deep dive into church history,
Mm.
that's when I saw the holy wars and certain things, and I'm like, wait, this doesn't seem good. Like these Christian people are quite. This is why aren't we talking about this? And of course it's in the Old Testament. God says go in, wipe out everybody,
Yeah,
men, women,
yeah,
children. Of course, keep the virgins, right? Obviously, God wants you to keep the virgins, clearly.
yeah, yeah. Some would call that war crimes.
Exactly, right? I mean, it's just wild, not to mention that the fact that God himself wiped out the entire earth, which this is not true. Obviously, it's a fictional story, but Christians believe it to be true. That God wipes out everybody on planet Earth, pregnant mothers, mothers in the process of birth at the moment, like just kills them all in a nasty flood with horror and terror, and only saves 8 people. It's like,
Yeah,
this is sketchy.
they did find some. They did go and find some wives and stuff apart from that after the flood, didn't they? Or if I remember correctly, or maybe I'm wrong. You know this much better than I do.
Yeah, not in the Bible they didn't, but I'm sure there's
Oh, okay.
extra biblical, like maybe in one of the Gnostic Gospels or in some other writing. But yeah, no, the entire earth was killed.
Yeah, well, because 8 people, the inbreeding there, that I don't even want to think about that.
Right.
You know,
Nor do Christians. They do not want to talk about that. Even going back just to Adam and Eve. I remember as a preacher, people would ask me, they say, well, so if Adam and Eve were the first 2 humans, then who did they mate with? I didn't even like talking about it. I'm just like, I don't even want to talk about that.
but I think that these stories, many of them in the Bible, they are very fascinating, and that's another thing that I get a lot. You should read the Bible and all of that. They
Why?
assume that I've never opened the Bible as a novelist, but assuming that if I did, then I would become a Christian. But again, I'm quite pragmatic when it comes to this, because if you say you're a Christian, I don't have a problem with that, and I understand that it means something different today than it did 1,000 years ago, or even 100 years ago, even 50 years ago,
right?
When they thought homosexuality was sin and all of that, and so even if people say that they're Christians, I'm not going to be the judge of what being a Christian means. I would argue that you have to believe that Jesus was a real person. He was the son of the Christian God, and he rose from the dead. I would argue that you need to believe in that. But even if you don't, and you say you're Christian, I'm not going to argue against that.
Sure.
It's fine. So I'm not difficult.
Yeah.
Some people say I am. I'm not.
Yeah, no, you're definitely not. I think you and I share the belief of, well, of course, you can be a Christian. I don't care. I mean, the only problem I have is I have a lot of problems with religiosity stuff, but my main problem is telling me that you have the ultimate truth, and I also must believe in this mythical truth that you believe as my truth. And just separate my brain, my rational thinking. I don't, it's just like, you must believe in the tooth fairy. It's like, no, like, I'm not going to believe in the tooth fairy, That's, to me, the big problem that I see is that there is only one way. The one way is Jesus. Every other way is wrong. You're going to go to hell if you don't, the real us and them. If you're not serving God, you're obviously serving the devil. I can't tell you how many times I get that comment on my channel, that you've clearly been blinded by the devil, Timmy. And I'm just like, just because I don't believe in your mythical, imaginary.
Yeah. By the
God.
way, is the sound okay? Because I forgot to choose this microphone. I have this microphone here, but maybe the sound is okay. Is the
It's
sound okay?
actually sounds okay. Yeah.
Okay, but then we won't use the expensive
Yeah.
microphone then. We'll keep it there on the side.
Yeah, I normally use
Um,
an expensive microphone too, but I found that this little head thing works just fine.
yeah, yeah.
So what do you think
Um,
about the Christian, like the only, Jesus is the only way. If you don't believe in that, you're going to hell. Like what's your thoughts that along with the Bible being the divinely inspired word of
mm.
God? What's your thought on that?
I think it's quite arrogant, of course. It's not like it's going to keep me up at night. If Christian people say that I'm going to hell, which they have said multiple times, I don't believe that there isn't a hell. So it's
Right.
like this should be obvious to everyone. But people saying that, it's not so nice. It's if people say, God bless in they write that in the comments on YouTube. That's nice,
Yeah.
Maybe not so nice if they say I'll pray for you, but
Yeah.
if they say, oh, you have to repent or else you're going to hell, it sounds a bit like a threat,
Yeah.
you know. Um, what's his name? Stephen Fry, English actor.
Yes, Stephen Fry,
Yeah.
his little rant about
Yeah, he said something along the lines of, he was asked, if God was real and you met God, what would you tell him? And he said, how dare you? Bone cancer in kids, how dare you?
yeah.
And it's so perfect, they said, because you have this uh, you have this problem in Christianity, which I often say I'm a Norse heathen, Norse pagan,
Yeah.
whatever, and Odin. I don't believe that in a literal Odin. Some pagans do. I don't. Um,
Yeah.
but he's not almighty, you
Right.
know. But this is the Abrahamic God is almighty. Well, he can't be good then.
Right.
He can either be almighty. There's or he if he's almighty, he's not good, and if he's
Right.
good, he's not almighty. And then these usually Christian American Christians, they have all this mental gymnastics going on, and they have inserted these things about free will and all of that. And it's it sickens me to hear that. That's actually more provoking than just you're going to hell, because they're trying these cheap debate tricks, and they are just silly. It's mental gymnastics at best, So that
Yeah.
that annoys me. Yeah,
Yeah, that Stephen Fry quote, I wanted to pull it up because
yeah,
I, like
yeah.
you, think it's just absolutely great. And so when Stephen Fry was asked what he would say to God if he happened to go and meet God at the pearly gates, and Stephen Fry says, I'll say, bone cancer in children? What's that about? How dare you? How dare you create a world in which there is such misery that is not our fault? Why should I respect a capricious, mean-minded, stupid God who creates a world which is so full of injustice and pain?
Yeah.
I mean, that gives me goosebumps. I feel like that feeling that you get, like people claim to feel in church when they get tinglies. When I saw that clip and heard
Mm.
that, I felt tingly inside because I thought that is so direct, so perfect. It so captures the feeling that I personally now have towards the belief in this God. Obviously, I don't believe. It's like Stephen Fry said. He was like, "Well, you asked me the question. I'm just answering the question. Obviously, I don't believe in this God."
Mm.
And so I understand that sentiment. People say you're angry at God. I'm not angry at God. It's like I'm not angry at Santa Claus. It's like Santa Claus isn't real. I'm not angry at the tooth fairy for not taking my teeth or not giving me enough money. I mean, what it's like, guys, I don't believe in this. So you can't scare me with the naughty and nice list. I don't believe in that. So when people, like, they say to you, you're going to hell, or you'll find out on Judgment Day. That's a common comment that I get. You'll find out one day. You'll find out. It's like,
Yeah,
oh goodness.
well, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But what I would like to say is that if you look at the polytheistic, so-called pagan faiths, we have actually a word. Norse paganism is not a religion. We have a word for it actually. It's sed, which is all Norse. It means something along the lines of customs that go into your life, things you do. And they did not, as I said, did not believe in an almighty God. Rather, they believed that you had these different gods that represented different aspects of life and nature and death and so on. And you could make a blood, an offering to one of the gods, and that god would hopefully help you in that area, like the crops, for instance, that year. And I think that's much healthier. If you're going to believe in gods, that's a much healthier way to go about it, because then you're making an offering to a friend, in a way, and it's not going to solve all your problems. You're not going to. So that's what people don't understand about the vast difference between the Abrahamic faiths and most of the pre-Christian polytheistic faiths.
Yeah.
Big difference there.
Yeah. And a lot of Christians don't realize, again, when I started really looking beyond just the Pentecostal history of the church, it's so funny when they think that their modern understanding of Christianity is the understanding of Christianity. It just shows their ignorance of where Christianity comes from, and some of the practices and some of the things that were borrowed from Greek and Roman philosophy and pagan, different pagan things. It's just so funny that we live in this little time and space of where we live, and we think that all the understanding that we have is the correct understanding of what it is. But you mentioned this, I think, the other day. You go back 1,000 years, well, even 50 years, but go back 1,000 years. Christianity is not what we do. It's not lights and pyrotechnics and worship music. It's not the same thing. It's just not that.
No, I view religion. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, that's it. It's just not the same thing.
I view religions as part of our culture, and we, as human beings, we create our gods. We have always done that. And,
yes.
It's obvious. And if Christian people watching this are going to write that, no, that's not true, and so on and so on. Well, as you said in our conversation on my channel, it's something along the lines. So there's not much difference in a way between an atheist and a Christian, because a Christian is an atheist when it comes to all the other gods.
Right.
So it's but we create our gods, and we need to understand that religions, they don't evolve in a vacuum. So like the Norse gods, they were clearly inspired by the Roman gods, because also, you had a migration period where people wandered north, and they had contact with the Romans and their customs, and that inspired and influenced the Germanic tribes, and so on up through the centuries. So the same with Christianity. It's obvious. And I think if you want to go back to the one true religion, you have to go back to tribes worshipping Mother Earth and the sun, which I will add are true things.
Yep.
Those are true.
Yep.
The sun is true, and the earth and all of that is true. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
maybe
that's
we
my
should all go
wife's.
back to that.
Yeah. And well, that's, honestly, I talk about on my channel often that I said, I'm atheist. My wife is very spiritual. That, what you just said, identifies her. She's, Mother Earth and the things that actually exist, and, the consciousness and the collective and nature and all that, she's spiritual. She's not religious. She doesn't, she doesn't believe in the one true God that everybody must, the Abrahamic God. And so she really honors that space, and I think it's beautiful, and it totally resonates with me, because I would say I'm a naturalist, I'm a materialist. I believe things that there's evidence for. I love nature. I love connecting with nature. I love going outside in the mornings barefoot, and I stand in the grass, which some people might call that like a spiritual practice, but I'm not doing that to a God. I'm doing that to, like you said, what actually exists. It's like this exists. I can go out and step into the grass and stand on the earth.
You know what I get quite a lot in the comments? I get, you're worshiping the creation instead of the creator.
Oh, brother. Yeah, I've heard that. I used to say that. Yeah, I'm worshiping the thing that exists.
But it's actually very interesting, because if you think about it, what they call the creation, I don't think it's a creation, but nature. Nature creates us.
Yep.
All of nature around us is what creates us. And when we die, we go back to nature. You can't argue against that, because that's just how it is.
Facts.
And then we can, of course, have a conversation about what do you think happens after we die and so on, which, as also I said in our other conversation, I really hope that I get to see my loved ones again, but I don't know. It's just a hope.
Yeah. I like what Ricky Gervais said, something so profound that, I don't know if you know the comedian Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
And he was talking to someone about God on their program, and he said, if we wiped out all of our knowledge and began to come back to then starting over and rediscovering, he said, we would rediscover math, we would rediscover gravity, we would rediscover facts. He said religion would be completely different. It would be completely different, because it's not an objective truth, though I know Christians think that it is. It's not. I mean, and that's just so easy. Like, we don't have Christian math, Hindu math, Jewish math, it's Muslim math. There's just math, right? There's math. Anywhere around the world, it's math. Well, why around the world do we have all these different religions? And the number one, this is scientific, this is fact, this is research. The number one predictor of the faith that you will have is your location, where you live.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, and to me, if that's not enough proof that we have created God, we made God in our image. And if you can't see that that is just so plainly, clearly a fact, I don't know. Like, I just don't know what to, I don't know.
Well, the stories in the Bible is a reflection of tribes living in surroundings that were quite dry. Your livestock, is that what you say? Your animals? Yeah. Was your wealth. It was patriarchal, of course. Men could have multiple wives, and all of that. So it's reflected in those stories, I think, and it's obvious that's how things were back then. I've still, I find those stories fascinating as a window into a very different time.
Yeah.
And if everything was wiped out and humanity had to start over, I think they would create some kind of religion if we could just go along and play with that thought and that idea. But I
Right.
think it would have been different because civilization would have started in a different area, because now, well, the Middle East, it's too dry. It's too dry now. And I don't know if it was more fertile back. Well, it was more fertile back then when civilization started with the first cities, city-states, and all of that, and the civilizations along the rivers back down there. You'll have to stop me because I can keep going.
No, this is
But
good. No, I love it.
you could, as a European, I would say maybe civilization would have started again somewhere further north in Europe, in a more wooded area, and that would have shaped the religion that they created, maybe, and then so it would have been different. Just a thought experiment, a little bit,
Yeah, I mean, think about if you picked up take a Christian that is just so sure of their beliefs that are true. And of course, they can't believe, I guess, in the creation part because the 6,000-year-old earth, because this might mess all that up, but play along, right? Pick up a Christian, take them back 10,000 years, drop them in. People, they're not going to know who the fuck Jesus is. What do you mean the Bible? Like, they're going to have a whole nother way to be right with the Creator that will not at all resemble anything of the Christian faith. And of course, the Christian is so arrogant to think that even in that scenario, they would be the bearer of truth, that they would be the ones who have the truth that was dropped down into the 10,000 years ago.
Yeah, are we in the times of Zarathustra back then? My knowledge about that time period is a little bit rusty, I must admit, but yeah, but you're correct, of course.
Yeah, and it seems like, I don't know, maybe you know this. I would love to, I hope you do. How far does religion go back? Do we know?
Yeah. Well, I think if we go back to, well, I don't know, but I know that they have recently, or at least I watched it on TV, the Neanderthals have left art, some kind of art, which is, I think, is that maybe the earliest form of, art is an expression of our abstract thoughts. So right. They've left some marks that they think might be art. Other people will know a lot more about this than I do, but and of course we know that they buried their dead. They didn't just discard them,
Yeah.
So they must have had some belief in maybe an afterlife. When was the first? If we ask the archaeologists, how far back can we go and find people that were buried with objects? Because if you bury someone with objects, you believe maybe that they need that in the afterlife. Yeah. And the afterlife, believing in an afterlife is a marker for a religion, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm just guessing here.
Yeah.
But it goes way back,
Yeah. Yeah, and even burying them with like their heads at the north and their feet at the south, or whatever that is. There's some that they've seen some of that. Yeah, and it's funny you say that because I had just watched an episode about Neanderthals and the earliest signs of art that reflected some kind of abstract thought as well as some kind of a beyond them kind of a view, and it was very fascinating. And I just wonder what. This is just my own brain. I sometimes wonder, what did the earliest people, humans, believe about a supreme being, what we call God today? Like, what were their views what was there? This is the part that really just makes me laugh at Christianity, frankly. Go back 10,000 years, 15,000 years, and let's go back to early Homo sapiens, or even Neanderthals. Let's go back 300, 500,000 years. What was their way of salvation? How were they forgiven of their sins? You start bringing up all those Christian things, and to me, I'm sorry, and I know Christians get really upset with me, but it's laughable. It's just absolutely ridiculous to think that your little version of Christianity, your little Baptist church, is any kind of objectively true, capital T, eternal truth. Is just insane. It's why I agree with Richard Dawkins. I know it's not everybody is absolutely clinically delusional, but it is a delusion of sorts.
Yeah, well, I actually view the Abrahamic religions as quite a recent thing in human history. And I just have to mention this because also either I read it or I saw it on the TV. I probably just saw it on the TV one night. I'm not going to pretend to be the super intellectual person here, but at least some researchers, some scientists, they had found some Neanderthals, the remains of the remains. That would have been quite something. They found some live Neanderthals. Actually, I come from powerlifting, and you have to wonder if some people have a lot more Neanderthal DNA than other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. But or as my friend says, especially in the old boys division of powerlifting, some of the guys, they look like they just
they
been
are
shook
100%.
down from the trees.
They're 100% Neanderthal.
But yeah, they had found some like a camp. Neanderthals lived there. I think it was Neanderthals, and they think that they had burnt the remains of their deceased and eaten some of the ashes. And to us, it's that's disgusting, right? To us, but to them maybe, and they were guessing maybe they thought that was a way of a belief that then they would live on through you.
Yeah.
And I actually, yes, to us it's disgusting, but also I will say this, I think it's in that setting kind of beautiful, actually.
Yeah.
Not saying I would have done that, but
right.
So yeah, we need to have, especially Muslims, Jewish people, Christians, they need to have a lot more respect for the times that was before and people of other faiths, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And, to be fair, I know that I'm not fair. I'm very polarizing in my views. But to be fair, the Christians that I make fun of, really, it's more the beliefs I make fun of, but inadvertently I'm making fun of the Christians, I guess. Most Christians are not young earth creationists. Most Christians are many. I don't know what the numbers are, but many Christians, a lot of my Christian friends, they also believe that all faiths are valid, and they don't think that the only way is their way, and a lot of them don't believe in hell for everybody who's not Christian. And so, to be fair, now many Christians would consider them not real Christians, though, and I just did a video about this. The kind of Christian I was the kind of Christian that believed that the actual version of Christianity that I was the only true version. Catholics weren't actually really Christian. Episcopalians definitely weren't Christians because they accepted the gays. The kind of Christian that I was. Yeah, the scary gays. It was very, very, narrow is the way.
Yeah.
And few find it, right? Of course, I'm a part of the few. Not many people go to heaven, but I am a part of the few that do get to go, clearly. I find that, again, to use your word, it's just such an arrogance to think that little old you, you have the corner market on the ultimate truth, and everyone else around the world has got it wrong.
Yeah, I think it comes from a place of being insecure when there are things you don't know. Like your insecurity makes you insecure, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
some people, I think, they prefer to have an answer to everything, even though they deep down they understand that that answer is just made up. And I think that's a bit sad, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to, as an evangelical pastor, I used to make fun of evolution, and I used to mock it, which is funny. You know how much I knew about evolution?
Yeah.
I didn't know anything. So it's the argument. What's that called? The argument from ignorance. I think, it's a fallacy. In other words, I don't understand it, therefore it's not true. And that is so, I'm almost embarrassed to say it. I mean, I do say that when I was an evangelical pastor, I was just a moron. Now, I wasn't a moron about all things, but I was definitely a moron about so much of what was understood in the world. And the fact that I could exist like that and a funny thing, I think I could only really have existed here in the Bible Belt with that kind of a moronic belief, to have believed creation and Adam and Eve and all that stuff. Like, I just almost feel like you have to be in the Bible Belt to be able to not just be laughed out of town, to maintain that kind of a belief system. I don't know.
I think it comes from a place of lacking humility. And I think also that has a lot to do with the education system, because the education system should teach you humility. It should teach you that you might become an actual expert at one point in your life in an area. But you shouldn't ever think that you're an expert on everything. And it's like, I saw this podcast, I think, about the podcast. That was, what's his name? Joe Rogan.
Oh yeah, Joe
Rogan and Mel Gibson were sitting there, and Mel Gibson, I'll leave that for another time. I love, like, Braveheart and so on, but it was embarrassing what he said.
Yeah.
But they were also talking about climate change, and I think Joe Rogan didn't believe in that.
Yeah.
And it's like, and they had this example. If you take a glass of water and you put ice cubes in it, when the ice cubes melt, does the water flow over the edge of the glass? No. And therefore, ice melting will not make the water level rise. But what these two brilliant people can't imagine is that the ice is not necessarily in the water. It's on land.
Right.
Like Antarctica is a continent, right? And on Greenland, it's on top of that.
Right.
So when that melts, it goes into the water and so on. Yeah. Even I can understand that. I'm not a scientist, but it's, but, and then this podcaster said that if Joe Rogan says something, I'll get to the end of my argument here soon. If Joe Rogan, who I believe is an MMA, is into mixed martial arts, I think. Maybe he's an expert on that. And if he observes someone saying that you should come into the ring doing, spinning around or something ridiculous, that will be the perfect defense. He would be able to say, no, that's wrong. Because he's an actual expert on that. he's not an actual expert on climate change.
Right.
So he should be more humble. And it's like the few things I know about her in life, and I hear politicians talking about that. I have an university education in economics. And when these politicians talk about economics, I say, no, that's actually wrong what you said there,
Yeah.
because I know what they're talking about. But I don't know so much about the other areas. So this lack of humility and believing that you know everything about everything is what I see a lot of people with a political dogma saying, religious dogma. They are like that, and it's a bit sad because we should be more humble. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, it's even as simple as when so many things that I don't understand how carbon dating works. So I just don't understand it. So when I was a preacher, I would just say, well, the scientists weren't there billions of years ago to film this. So, how do they know? Like it was just, which is just such a moronic statement. In other words, again, I don't understand carbon dating. Therefore, it's just not true. It's not real. But of course, anytime carbon dating would assist in a belief that I might have, I'm like, well, carbon dating confirms my belief. It was so, it's just, the way you would use material or disprove material. I literally had a conversation with a Christian the other day. I say the other day, it's actually been months ago. And I said something about, how do you reconcile? Because he was a young earth guy, young earth creationist. And I said, well, how do you reconcile the age of the earth and all these confirmation measurements and yada, yada, yada. And he said, oh, well, carbon dating's been debunked.
Okay.
And I was like, what? Like, when did that happen? I thought that carbon dating was like a legit thing. I remember I was just and I thought to myself, I used to say the same kind of stuff in a room of everybody else that also believes in the same moronic things that I believe in. You can say things like that and everybody just, amen, brother, preach it, yay.
Oh.
You don't get any pushback, because there's no scientists in the room.
Ask him where lead comes from.
Interesting. Okay. Where does lead come from?
I think it starts as, and I might be wrong, but I think it starts as a radioactive thing, and then it takes a trillion, billion, million years for it to become lead.
Interesting.
Something like that. And anyone who has studied this in university or something, they will know what I'm talking about, and they could explain it better. But we have so many actual pieces of evidence concerning the age of our planet. So yeah. But I still, I really want to become a young Earth creationist. I really want to, because, just the idea of riding a T-Rex, it's taming a T-Rex, riding the T-Rex to the grocery store.
Yeah.
So cool.
That would be so cool. There's a book that I'm reading right now called On Being Certain. And it's Believing You Are Right Even When You're Not, by Robert A. Burton, MD. It is so good. This is such a good book. It's helping me understand even my own story. A lot of people, I play competitive tennis, which, by the way, I used to lift I say competitively in local gym stuff. So I used to be able to bench. I weighed 180 pounds and I could bench like 320, 325
That's
my
really
bench.
good.
Yeah, for my size. It's the Neanderthal, I think. Honestly, It must be the Neanderthal in me. Anyway, so many people are fascinated by how I went from, full on evangelical pastor, like with a church. I was a young earth creationist. I was a conspiracy theorist. I was an anti-vaxxer, which is interesting. There was a couple comments on the video that you and I did together, and one person that I think this dude was atheist, and he was saying he was so surprised that so many former, people that have deconstructed from their faith now are supportive of vaccines or whatever. And that's a whole nother conversation. Because also I'm into health and nature and natural. I don't run to the doctor when I get the sniffles. I drink more water, I exercise, so I'm very given to, like, I eat a vegetarian lifestyle, but I like bacon and steak. But I live mostly.
That's not being a vegetarian.
Yeah, right.
Just to inform you there.
Man, why is I can't get that to shut off. Yeah, so I live mostly vegetarian, but I eat meat. So that's why I don't call myself a vegetarian.
Yeah.
And hopefully maybe people might get upset with me here. A lot of people are just, they go to get checkups every 3 months, and anytime the doctor says to go on a medication, they go on it and all that stuff. And you do you. I support that. Everybody make their own decision. I'm not a doctor. But I am 57 years old, and I don't take medications. There have been medications over my lifetime that have been prescribed to me. But I looked for other ways. I thought, man, maybe if I stop eating fast food, junk food, crap food, and I start eating more, maybe I won't have to take this medication. Okay.
Yeah.
I am for the medical field. People, do not take what I'm saying out of context here.
No, I understand.
Yeah. So, for me, I was told I was going to have to be on high blood pressure medication. And I thought, okay, but and I told the doctor, I said, can you give me a month to let me change my diet, let me exercise more, let me see what I can do to change this, because I really don't want to go on high blood pressure medication because it'll affect that down there, and I don't want that. And
that's not
so good. Yeah, it's not good. So I came back a month later and my blood pressure was normal. And he goes, what did you do? I said, well, I quit eating fast food, processed food, junk food. And I said, I drank more water, and I did more cardio. And he just said, well, good for you. He goes, I didn't think you could do that. And I'm like, you should, you're a doctor.
Yes.
So again, I straddle that fence, so when I say I'm not an anti-vaxxer, what I mean is, I don't think there's an evil cabal trying to get me to take a vaccination that has a chip in it so I can be tracked by the government. I'm not that, but I don't go get shots anytime they mention a shot on a TV commercial that I should get because I'm over 55. I'm like, nah, I don't think I need that shot. I don't need Ozempic. I need to quit eating as much. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and when it comes to the vaccination thing or being anti-vaxxer and that comment, I think, I have actually noticed this as well, where people, if you could draw a Venn diagram, you would have people who believe in crazy stuff. They also do not believe that vaccinations are good at all. Right. And I'll get to my point there. And then, no, I lost my train of thought here. I'll try not to make it so complicated. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think the COVID vaccination was a disaster. I think it should not have happened like that. And I think it's beginning to become very, very obvious to most people that a lot of money went into that, much more so than people's health. So when I notice that people say things like, vaccinations are good for you, well, I think that's something nobody should say, because we have access to so many vaccinations, and some of them are very risky. Yeah. The COVID vaccination was a risky vaccination. The mRNA technology was and is probably not good for us. and that I did actually have some knowledge of because I wrote a book looking into some of that had to do with that before the whole COVID crisis started, so I could see what was going on here, which was big pharma trying to get this sold to every living human being. So what I said on YouTube was that, and I'll try not to get you demonetized here, but what I said was basically, please look into the proper information, not necessarily propaganda from your authorities, and make a decision for yourself, whether that is having that vaccination or not. That's up to you. That's what I said. And that was seen as being an anti-vaxxer. I can tell you that my kids did not have all the vaccinations in the Norwegian program because some of them are not necessary, and there's a risk-reward thing there that so you have to look at each and every one. And after COVID, I lost all faith. No, not all faith. I don't trust big pharma, these companies, at all.
Yeah.
I should probably stop here so that you won't get demonetized. But there is what I'm trying to say here is that for me, saying that all vaccinations are bad is silly. Saying that all vaccinations are good is silly. This should be, some might help you, some might harm you more than they will help you,
Yeah.
So that's my take on that. But I have noticed that on atheist YouTube channels, they will have this default thing where they say, oh, anti-vaxxers are stupid and so on. Well, what's an anti-vaxxer then?
Right.
I've been called an anti-vaxxer for years now.
Yeah.
And
I think there's good reason.
I will say the amount of threats, the abuse, the death threats I received from people because I chose not to have the COVID vaccination. It's been I lost faith in humanity, and I know for a fact that within the police force in Norway, it was said, not in public, but that people like myself should be shot. Wow. Not kidding.
Yeah.
It was said. And then, then I look back at Second World War. Norway was occupied, and you had lots of Norwegians aiding the Nazis with, having Jewish people sent off to concentration camps and so on. And, I can understand how things like that can happen now.
Yeah. And,
so,
like you said, I think there's a lot of, there was that whole thing back in 2020 created a lot of hesitation in a lot of people for a lot of reasons, and I know that even in where I'm at, there are people that, they get the flu shot. They get the vaccine flu shot yearly, every year. And which is their choice. I support your choice to go do that.
Yeah.
And also, I would like you to support my choice to not go get the flu shot yearly. And this isn't true across the board, but at least with the few, and I know this is causation, that whole thing, just because, someone has sex and then they die doesn't mean that sex kills you, but almost every one of my friends that get the yearly flu shot also get the flu. And again, whatever, I don't know what that is. All I know is I don't get the flu. I don't get sick. I just don't. I don't know why. I just don't get sick. Now I'll get little sniffles, when the weather changes.
The man flu?
I'm sorry?
The man flu, is it?
The man flu. I just, I don't get sick. I don't know what that is. When I was a Christian, I said it was the blessing of the Lord. Now, as a non-believer, I'm just like, I don't know. I guess I have good genetics. I don't know what it is. I eat, I exercise, I do all these, whatever. My point is, what I'm doing is working for me. I don't
Yeah.
know a lot of guys who are 57 and rarely ever get sick, aren't on medications. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm wrong, but it's like, this is working for me. So I really don't want to introduce anything into me that could fuck this all up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think that you're eating proper food and you are physically active is probably has a lot to do with you not getting sick,
Right.
because that's what we are meant to eat proper food, and we are meant to be active and
Yeah.
we're meant to be outside a lot too, as well. And I live like that, except I'm sitting here drinking. It's organic. It's ginger lemonade, which I found
Ooh, I
in
love
the refrigerator, so I had to have that. But I I knock wood, I don't
Yeah,
get
me.
sick
Yeah.
either. I
Yeah.
don't think I got COVID either. Actually, I didn't notice anything.
Yeah.
But
Now, do you
yeah,
live? It looks like you live, like the impression that I get is that you live in a log cabin out in the middle of the forest. Is that how you live, or?
well, I don't. Well, actually, partly yes. My house doesn't look like uh, a log cabin, but it's actually logs inside the walls stacked on top of them, each other
Okay.
in there. And the forest, my property here is the edge of the forest, actually. But
Okay.
there are other houses
Oh, so you have a
not
neighborhood.
surrounded. On one side, there are other houses,
Okay.
but it's a very rural area. Yeah.
Yeah. That's very cool. And what, if
Mm.
you don't mind, like, what part of Norway? I don't know anything about Norway.
Yeah, I live
Um,
in Fredrikstad, which is the southeastern part. So it's like people. It's quite pleasant here when it comes to the temperature. And Norway is a long country. So if you flip Norway if you put a pin in the southernmost part of Norway and you
yeah.
flip it around to the south, it will reach Rome, I've heard,
Oh,
actually.
wow. Okay.
Yeah. So the climate up north and the climate where I live, it's very different.
Interesting. Okay. So where you are, do you get winter?
Yes, yes, and
Okay.
snow and all of that, but
Okay.
not nearly as much as up north. It's very different. They have a lot more snow, even just in Oslo, the capital, which is only like 1.5 hours to drive it from me.
Yeah.
Mm,
That's fascinating. Well, I have a couple more questions if you have a little bit of
sure.
time. Um, so when it comes to religion, I have traveled some, you know,
You
Europe.
travel quite extensively, I know.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
thank you. I think I've been to like 17 countries. So I guess on one hand, that seems like a lot. My Europe trip, I think I ended up going to like five because they're all so close.
Mm,
You can get to so many of them by train or a short flight.
yes. Mm,
So I guess, but when I think of there's 193 countries, is that right? Something like that. There's 190 something countries. So, when I think of that, I'm like, dear Lord, I've got a lot more traveling to do. Um, I'm just so fascinated by how different life is in different places. And, here, I think I maybe mentioned this in our talk on your channel. You can't be the president of the United States if you're atheist. I can't
yeah, so I've
imagine.
noticed. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
imagine like someone saying I'm a pagan and then running for president. Like that just wouldn't like that
Things
wouldn't
would have been very different. If
yeah.
if you had a Norse pagan president, things would have been
Yeah.
very different. I'll tell you that. Yeah.
Yeah. And to an earlier point that you mentioned, I mean, it's funny. People, and I just did a video about this too. I think it's coming out at some point. But anyway, I Christians will say they're Christian, and it doesn't mean anything other than it's just words that came out of their mouth just then. I'm Christian, but they're
Yeah.
living just like everybody else is living. Yeah. So I think it's almost like signaling, it's like, I remember during that 2020 time frame that we referred to earlier, I was taking a group picture with everybody and nobody had on masks. We had all, took off our masks and were eating and doing all this stuff at this little event that I was a part of. And then someone says, "Hey, let's do a big group selfie." And everybody started putting their masks on.
Oh,
They
yeah,
were they were signaling,
I see where you're
like
going with this.
right.
Yeah.
They were signaling, "Hey, I don't want this picture going out on social media, so I'm doing this to signal." And so sometimes I think that's what Christianity is. I think sometimes people will say, "Well, I'm Christian." It doesn't mean jack shit about nothing. It's just that's what you say. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you know what? If you go back to pre-Christian Viking age, I think it was sometimes a little bit like that back then as well. I suspect that, for some reason, especially the men were a little bit like lazy when it came to the whole thing, and their wives would be, "Oh, you have to put on your nice clothes now. We're going to the blood, and you have to behave now," and all of that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think the guys, they just wanted to go there to have a drink and a barbecue.
Right.
That's
Right.
what I think.
I agree. So in Norway, there's no pressure to be religious. I mean, do you feel comfortable being a pagan or
Yeah, well,
atheist or whatever?
now I'm thinking, well, I say I'm a Norse pagan, but and I do have, but I don't agree with atheists. I don't disagree. Sorry, I don't disagree with atheists when they are, because everything they're saying is very logical to me. But I still feel, to me, it's more like a feeling. Like when I go out into the woods or out at sea, I can feel almost a presence there, and I
Yeah.
don't know what that is. But maybe that is the God speaking to me, or in not in a literal sense, but in a
Sure.
symbolic way. That's what I'm trying to say here. And other Norse pagans might have different opinions on this, and that's fine. When it comes to Christianity, there is no pressure in Norway to be a Christian. We do have, sadly, because I'm a Republican, not right leaning necessarily. Well, I'm an anarchist, but
Yeah.
Republican in the sense I want Norway to be a republic, not a monarchy, right?
Right.
And we are sadly a monarchy. And I think it's still like the royal family has to be Christian.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Unless they just recently changed it. I'm not that interested in all of that stuff, but I seem to remember the royal family has to be Christian. When you look at the crown princess associations with a certain, I'll say the word in to avoid the ip and then Stein, or associations there, not so Christian, but anyway. So also I've seen this trend where you have a subculture, and it's a traditional Christianity, if we can call it that, attracting especially young men. We're seeing that in Norway as well, with these influencers inspired by other bigger influencers talking about that, and young men should become Christians and all of that.
yeah.
Traditional family values. They're talking about that a lot. So I'm seeing that trend here. which I don't like that so much.
Yeah.
But Norway as a country is secular now.
Yeah. That's fascinating. You know, also, I guess the world has become a lot smaller since the internet, the age of the internet, and
Mm.
of course, YouTube, and being able to, with a couple clicks, you can find out anything around the world. Whereas back in the 70s and 80s, I was born in 1969, so that's always wild to say I was born in the 1900 in the mid 1900s. It's like, what? That sounds older than it is. But I was born in 69, so I lived in the
Mm.
70s and up and through the 80s. I didn't even have, it wasn't until the 90s, the late 90s, that I even had internet, computer, or any of that. So I don't even think I had a cell phone until the 2000s, so most of my
Mm.
life, for really most of my life, was a life without all this technology. And I don't know, do you feel like you have learned much more about the world, the earth, the world, because of the internet? I mean, do you think of your life as a teenager not knowing anything about America?
Well, yes, I have learned a lot more about the world because of the internet, and that is true. So there are many good things that came with that. But our knowledge of, especially America or the USA, was very limited because we always news from America, the
Mhm.
USA on our one TV channel back then. But also I remember we had this guy who went to America and he made this TV series, this program from Disney World and places like that. All the kids wanted to go to Disney World, of course. It's
Yeah.
just like fantastic. But then what they did, and you're going to laugh now, it was a bit cruel, but they were filming all the fat Americans. so so one ass bigger than the other, filmed from behind,
Oh man.
wobbling through the streets at Disney World and in the cities, And naturally, we thought that, oh, all Americans are very, very fat, very
Yeah.
fat, because we hardly ever saw people like that in Norway in the 80s, 70s and
Interesting.
80s. But now, of course, Norwegians have also
We've Americanized you.
become bigger.
Oh
So,
man.
yeah, fat shaming was a big thing in on the state television back then.
Yeah.
Lots of fat shaming. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have a lot of obesity in my family, so this will shock you. I'm very trim, but I have an uncle, or had an uncle, he passed, that weighed almost 700 pounds. And a lot of obesity ran in my family. My biological father died obese at the age
Oh,
of 37, and he was of course a drinker and a smoker and like all the stuff. I smoke cigars, um, so, and I'm just not a drinker. I mean, I'll have a drink once
mm,
every couple, or for my birthday, or for special occasions, on occasion. I would probably be what you call a health nut. I'm a health nut.
mhm.
um which I've always been that way, but I've become more that way as I've gotten older. But anyway, yeah, obesity runs in my family, and that's why I have my opinions about certain things. I often will say that, and I'm like, yeah, everybody, all the genes in my family should make me obese, but just because it runs in the family doesn't mean that then you need to run with the family. In other words, that might be, if I ate terrible and didn't exercise, I would probably be obese. Um, Most likely. And I used to be
Yeah.
heavier than I am now. I dropped about 50 pounds, but I used to lift real
Quite
heavy, so
lots.
it was muscle and just a lot of extra weight.
Mhm.
So yeah, I believe that you can change your life. If you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to keep getting the same results you've always gotten. If you want different
Yeah.
results, then you got to do something different. I'm a firm
Yes.
believer in that. Yeah, your family's overweight. Okay, that's fine. No shame.
Mm.
Don't eat like your family. Don't live like your family. Do something different, and maybe you'll get a different result. I know that's simple
I,
thinking, but
yeah, but it's true, and also I think that a lot of the foods in America and the additives, they are not even allowed in Europe, and they actually, as far as I understand, they make certain foods addictive. You want to
yeah,
eat more and more and more.
yeah,
And again, if you eat real food like meat, fish, vegetables, organic vegetables, and you stick with that, you're not going to get fat
yeah,
because your body will tell you when you had enough.
yeah,
But if you eat all that ultra processed foods, it's going to tell your body that you need to add more and more and more. And I heard somewhere, that was on YouTube actually, that the reason why your body tells you to eat more is that you're lacking nutrients. That food is lacking nutrients, and therefore your
interesting.
body tells you to eat more and more and more. But you're not getting the nutrients from that ultra processed crap.
Yeah,
So you get all the calories, but not the nutrients, and you
yeah,
get fat, of course.
yeah, yeah. And I heard that, and not to get into my personal story, but back when I was 27, I was slightly overweight, about 50 pounds overweight. I was exercising heavily, but I was overweight. I was thick. It was evenly
Mhm.
distributed. No one would have called me obese, but I definitely, my neck, like I wear a 15 and a half neck now. Back then, my neck was 17. My face was way rounder than it was. I didn't have any chiselness to my face at all. Anyway, 27. At the time, I was on 9 medications.
Oh,
And that's when I went on a deep dive into nutrition and health, holistic health, nature, natural, all that stuff.
mm,
I became a hardcore vegetarian. I was a vegetarian for 12 years. And but I wasn't just a no meat guy. I was a vegetarian, meaning I ate lots of vegetables, whole foods. I didn't eat processed foods at all. I didn't drink pop or any, like I ate no sugar. Like I went hardcore. What I ate came from the earth. And I
mm.
dropped 50 pounds within probably about 6 to 8 weeks. I dropped 50 pounds
Wow,
just
that's a
right
lot.
off my body. And then I went
Mm.
back to the doctor and I went off all 9 medications that I was on. 3 of which they said I would be on forever, that I would always have to take these. Reflex, I was like, get that little throw up
Mm.
in my throat all the time. Just there were several things. I was having lots of stomach issues. And I don't know what to say except this is what happened to me is I went on a health nut craze and it reversed all of my issues. And so from the time I was 27 to the time that now I'm 57, I have not had to take medications to uh, any of that stuff. Um, you
Mm.
know, I feel very
Yeah, I
lucky.
think if yeah, if only these doctors could prescribe proper diet, start there.
Yeah, yeah,
Of course, if it's something critical, you kind of have to
absolutely.
medicate, but that should always be the goal to get off the medications. And I, I, I'm 100% certain that their motivation comes from money because they get a cut off of the, in many cases at least, that's what I've heard, they get a cut off of the, when they prescribe
Sure.
medications. So
Yeah.
yeah, health, food is health, and it's medicine,
Yep.
or it can be devastating to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, man, I have really enjoyed, getting a chance to meet you. I really was so frankly honored, even before I knew you were an author. Like I said, I came on your show not knowing anything about you. I was just curious because honestly, your name, and you were from Norway. I was just like, I'm interested to talk to this guy just based on that alone. And then after our interview, I went and watched some of your videos, and I saw that you had authored some books, which I was going to order one. And then I don't speak anything but English. And even that's not, I don't even speak English that well. And so I was like, well, shoot, I can't read any of his books. But yeah, you're an impressive person. And
Oh.
yeah, it's been really cool to have talked to you, on your show, and then to talk to you on my show. And I hope that we stay in touch. I would love to do, especially because we're kind of a crossover. You're not in the same stream that I'm in. You're not doing what I'm doing, which is talking about deconstructing from your stupid religious beliefs like I do. But there's some crossover there. And I thought, I so many comments, there's a lot of crazy comments in that video, but there's a lot of great comments saying, wow, that's an unexpected crossover collaboration.
Yeah, most of the comments are very nice. And
yeah.
Absolutely.
Most of the comments are, just absolutely just fine. And so that's cool. And so, yeah, thank you. Seriously. Thank you so much for reaching out to me and having me on your show. And thanks for coming on my show.
Well, the pleasure is all mine, and thank you for coming on my show and explaining to me this very strange phenomenon of the American how do you say, evangelism?
Evangelical.
That word. Yeah. Even the word is very strange.
Yeah. Well, that's like I said in closing. Your name. My famous tennis player growing up was Beyond Board. But for some reason, when I saw your name, I kept telling my wife, I was like, I know his name is Bjorn. I said, but I want to call him Bjorn. I said, because I'm hooked on phonics.
Some say born, which is a bit silly. Don't say born. At least. No, you said it perfectly there.
Yeah.
Bjorn.
Well, awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, hey, thank you so much. And I'll definitely be reaching out to you to come back on for sure.
Wonderful. We'll keep in touch.
Give me just a second.